Welcome to our team Huddle. I am Allie. I'm the director of Fast Pitch with Softball Youth. Most of you guys know me and have been to many of these and kind of know how these go. You probably noticed that this one is a little bit different because typically we have all of the video up. We are actually using Coach Bruder's Zoom that has a little bit wider range, so the settings are a bit different, but we're still going to roll with things the same way. A couple housekeeping things before I intro everybody. And we get going. This is way different because usually I can tell when you guys are paying attention or not. So this, you guys can get away with a little bit more in this session, but good, I see people coming in. A couple ways this is gonna go. Make sure you guys have your chat boxes open. Okay, that's how we're gonna communicate. If you are comfortable putting your questions in front of everybody, I think that's really beautiful because everybody can learn from those questions. But if that doesn't feel safe to you, you can certainly message Alicia. Raise your hand, Alicia, in case anybody doesn't know you. Or me, Allison, and we can get going, okay? This entire session is dedicated to recruiting. You have 3 former Division I coaches on this panel, which I think is pretty incredible and something we really never have access to, because a lot of times they're still actively coaching and there's a lot of rules and regulations that stop them from giving you guys super honest feedback. None of us are in that situation. So we have no ties, nothing to lose, and just want to help you guys as much as we totally can. Okay, so I introduced myself. Most of you guys know me, but a little bit about my background in case there's some NCSA girls on here from Coach Bruder. I coached Division I softball for 10 years before I started working for Softball Youth. I played Division I. I also played 1 year at junior college, so I have a little bit of a wide range of experiences playing at the college level. Alicia's here with me. She's my right-hand man at Softball Youth. She is a former unbelievable All-American at the University of Louisville. She won't brag on herself, so I will brag on her. She was on the Great Britain national team and did some really beautiful things, came out of retirement to try to make the Olympics and was 1 game away from making it. So it's a pretty beautiful thing. We're here with Coach Bruder. Coach Bruder, raise your hand. Awesome. She is our guest of honor today. She is currently an NCSA softball recruiting coach, which basically means that if you are in her service, she helps you with all of the tools you need to play at the next level. She also has over 20 years of college coaching experience at multiple levels, mostly Division I, but also Division III. She was a Division III athlete herself and is in the Hall of Fame at her school, and she finished her college career at 3rd in the nation. So pretty awesome. And she got to play with her identical twin, which is just kind of a fun background story. So if there's any siblings out there that are considering playing at the next level, that's a pretty cool thing. So Coach Bruder, you want to just say hi and introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to kind of share my knowledge. Jumped into NCSA, I'm sure Allie will get into that, about a year ago. So totally different. I've been a college coach my whole life. So I speak a lot to my athletes that I help, what college coaches look for, so we'll kind of get into that. But I appreciate you guys having me today. Heard great things about your huddles, helping the youth. And that's what this is all about tonight. So I appreciate you having me.
Awesome.
Excited to have you.
Awesome. So I have a couple, one thing, and just so you guys know, these are completely fueled by your questions. So the more interactive you guys can be, if you didn't come prepared tonight, no offense, but shame on you, right? This is something that we want to give you guys a gift. This is a free session where you can ask anything you want in a safe space. So make sure you guys start funneling in your questions. There is no question that's stupid. And if you do think it's stupid, then message me privately and I won't tell anyone who it came from. So we're gonna get rolling, and I already have 2 private questions. And just a note, you guys, make sure you are all on gallery view so you can see each of us. That'll be the best way, so that way you have our 3 faces up there, so you can see all of us no matter who is speaking. All right, so let's get rolling. Got a couple questions coming in, which I think is so beautiful. My softball youth girls, I really expect you guys to have some good questions in here, so make sure you guys are planning and getting ready. Coach Bruder, let's give it a go. First question, which is like such a common question that a lot of our people have received, but none of our panelists that we've had, we've had some really high level players. We've had some coaches that have experience, but nobody with the long-term experience at the college level coaching that you So we're going to ask it still, even though we've answered it time and time again. When you are at a tournament and you're watching kids play, what's something that kid can do other than go 2 for 3 and field every ball that comes their way at shortstop? Like, what can that kid do to spark your interest and stand out?
Yeah. No, good question. Great start to this conversation. And stop saying longevity of my career. You're aging me every time you sit along this coach. So, yeah, if you look really close. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I came out of retirement too. Yeah. So no, I love that question. And I'm just going to start I'm just going to lay this out there so I don't have to say it every time. Every college coach is different, obviously. Everybody looks for different things. Softball's the same. What makes teams different? Some like the short game, some like the long game, some like the speed, some are, power defense. So I'm just going to start that so I don't have to preface every answer with my opinion is. That's why I'm here, is my opinion. I love dirty players. I love personalities. I'm a personality. Anybody that's played for me, anybody that I've recruited, you either leave my office saying, I want to play for that coach, or, oh my God, Mom, let's go somewhere else. There's really no in between. So I like personalities. I like kids with confidence. I like kids that after a warm up are dirty. I love them when they come sweating and they leave sweating. And that's just me. That was me as a player. That was me as a coach. I'm first row arrive and the last one home. So I like that kid that shows up. I can't teach you to be a winner. I can't teach you to hold up number one when you win. That's a natural reaction, right? I can't teach you to want to be there early. I can't teach you when I'm not looking. Are you still doing that for you, for your team, not for me, the coach? Your scholarship's there and I can't pull it for a year. What are you doing that for? Is that for you or is that for somebody else? So I like those kids with a little flair, a little personality, and a little dirty.
That's awesome feedback. And we talked about this in specifically the camp perspective. What can kids do at camps specifically? But the answer is the same. And the short answer of yours was hustle and do whatever it takes to be that kid that people want to be around and want to play with, right? This is a super specific question. And it was a personal one that came in privately to me. But the specific question was, does living in X state affect me going to X school far away, right? And I think especially Alicia and myself can speak from experience. Alicia, you want to kind of talk about your recruiting journey a little bit? And
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I grew up in Northern California and I went to school all the way out in Kentucky. So it was a personal choice for me to broaden my horizons as far as leaving home. But it definitely wasn't something that I didn't have access to get recruited. It was all also about the tournaments I went to and the big time programs that I played for in travel ball. So that would definitely, help you kind of go and see different sides of the country.
I think if you are really, really, really dedicated to the idea of your dream school, which I think is a beautiful thing, I think everybody should have a dream school, right? Or 2 or 3. I mean, when Coach Bruder and I coached together, we would always ask kids out when they sat in our office, do you have a dream school? Do you think you realistically can play at that dream school? If you are not on a team that is competing at the level of tournaments and on the right fields in those tournaments, you can go to all the best tournaments in the world, but if you're not playing at the good fields, nobody's going to be there to watch you, right? If you're not playing at those types of schools and you want to get funneled into X school that's far away, then you need to regionally put yourself in a position that's going to be in front of them. So absolute worst case scenario, you need to get to some camps in front of those coaches, but you need to be competing at tournaments in a region where you think that they are actually recruiting. So does it stop you? Absolutely not. Lacey Waldrop was on with us, and she went to Florida State. She's from North Carolina. She was recruited 99% based on her skills video. She sent her video to Coach Almeida and she liked her. So she went and saw her in person, and that's it. It doesn't make it more challenging if they're out of region, of course, but Alicia and I both went to schools out of our region and were found just fine.
And I still live in Kentucky.
Don't stop you. Yeah, and I also don't live in either, so. Awesome. Okay, so let's keep rolling. We got a lot of good questions. This is an unbelievable question, which I think is really cool. Let's talk a little bit about the junior college route. Coach Bruder, why don't you speak a little bit to especially even at a high level, at the Division I level, JUCO transfers are very uncommon at the Division III levels because of academic standards. It's much harder to transfer in. But at the Division I and Division II level, talk about how crucial junior college athletes are, what their recruiting timeline looks like, and then how they can, use that as a funnel.
Yeah, no, and I think you're exactly right. I think definitely I recruited out of JUCO on an annual basis. If a shortstop didn't work out the way I thought she would, and I had to transition her to second, that opened up a spot that I didn't want. A kid, was academically ineligible. Since I've stopped coaching and the transfer portal was just going in, or the portal was just getting in while I was getting out of coaching. So thankfully I didn't have to deal with that. But there's circumstances that coaches can't predict and kids obviously can't predict that puts you in a situation of a need base. I like JUCO for a number of different reasons in regards to, I already feel like these kids got a year or two of collegiate experience. Is it D1? Is it D2? No, but there's some good ones. My recommendation as a recruiting coach now is I think JUCO gets a bad rap. I think there's a lot of benefits to it. Outside of California, the other 49 states have 24 full scholarships if fully funded. And we can get into fully funded at a different conversation, but you're going to JUCO on a full ride for 2 years debt-free. And isn't money a conversation every single time as a coach or a recruiter, as a dad, as a mom? So there's huge advantages there. My recommendation when I have a junior or senior struggling with, don't really like these looks, kind of want to stay close to home, I got a financial hiccup. Allie, you hit the nail on the head in regards to academically, four-year institutions are getting more strict on what that used to be. It used to be 2.0 main courses, you're in. We have then hired that now to like a 2-3. You need to take more than that. So I think there's a path for kids. My recommendation, go to some that are competitive. I'm at a D1 school, losing more games than I win. I'm fired. So I got to win some games, right? So I'm winning 30, 35 games a year, and you're at a JUCO for convenience, maybe for the wrong reasons. I hate to say that. We speak honest in this forum, right? And you're winning 10 games at a JUCO. I'm probably not going to recruit you. I need you to come from a winning tradition, one that goes to regionals, nationals, and you're, winning, again, 10 games, probably not going to get highly recruited in that aspect. So make sure we go to some good ones. Make sure we go to ones that get you placed and have that tradition. Make sure you go to some coaches that graduate their kids on time, that you build, and that when you step in as a junior, you look like a junior, you act like a junior, you play like a junior, because we don't have that much time with you. We have 2 years left. So do I love only having 2 years with you? No, but you should already be looking like a junior. So definitely an option. The recruiting timeline, Allie, that you spoke out, JUCOs do it differently as well now. They're getting more and more competitive. There's no dates for them to be able to talk.
They have no rules. They have no rules. They can offer to kids anytime.
And the good ones are going to compete with the D1s. Why wouldn't they try? Right. That kid competes and she commits, she's yours. So you can get a lot of good ones, and there's some good options there. Their typical timeline in recruiting, late junior, senior, even end of senior year. I'm working with a lot of athletes now that still have some roster spots open. So that could be a lifetime investment in your 4 years of high school. Never say no to those guys. Leave them on the table. They will probably be there until the end of your senior year.
No, I think that's awesome advice. So those of you guys who finances are an absolute necessity, and maybe you won't have the opportunities that you thought you would. JUCO is an amazing option, especially in the Texas, Florida, Arizona area. There's a lot of big time schools out there. So don't mark those off your list. I think that's awesome advice. Yeah. This is a great question. Okay. How do you start getting looked at by college coaches, and at what age? I'm going into 7th grade, so I know that's early. Okay. So let's two-part thing. Number one, the statement of 7th grade being too early. Is it a little considered earlier now? It is considered earlier now because there's been a lot of recruiting rule changes in the past. Yes, and there's been some changes in the past that have eliminated you making offers to middle schoolers and young high schoolers. Just 2 years ago, that was not the case, and 7th and 8th graders were receiving offers steady from some strong programs. Does that mean it's too late? Of course not. Of course that means it's not too late, especially now. But middle school is absolutely the time. 7th and 8th grade is absolutely the time. The way to start getting looked at, my opinion, Holly, I'll let you speak on this next. So many kids are using softball-specific social medias to post lots of videos and become really market themselves in that space. And that's been really, really successful across the board. I can think of 20 kids off the top of my head, high level athletes, some committed, some not, who use that as a huge tool. So that's a really great way to start. But no matter what, you have to be searchable. If I get an email from you, or I see your Twitter with hitting videos, or I see you at a field, if I put your name into Google, I need to find something. And if I don't, then I don't want to say it's a red flag, but there's got to be something that I can look at when I Google you, and that's a very base of how to start being seen by coaches.
Yeah, I think my thing in regards to young, I don't think there is too young. Like Ali said, it never used to be a September 1st talk date until 2 years ago by Division I. This is what I tell any athlete I'm working with, and I work with a lot of 7th, 8th, and a lot of 9th graders. Very long story short, college coaches need to see you 4, 5, 6 times before they start making you an offer. So as a head coach, my assistant's got to see my GA. Am I seeing the same thing? Why do I like this kid and you two don't? Like, we got to be on the same page. Does she fit our culture? Does she fit what we're looking for? To see us geographically, one young lady started off with a question, geographics, does that matter? I spent my last 10 years down in Texas, Europe, and Cali. Alicia, I'll find you. But when is the next time we're going to cross paths? That may take us 3 or 4 years to do that. You add 3 or 4 years, that's 7th and 8th grader by the time I make you an offer. So it's going to take us time to be able to see you, make that assessment. So we need to start building a profile, build video. And I know that's going to be a question about NCSA. Every company's got, its highs and lows, and every coach in the country looks at a profile and a video, period. On what venue, on what forum, go for it. You need to start building your resume. And as a 7th grader, what a resume is, ladies, is it's a profile. It's about you. And that's going to take years to do. So is there, in my opinion, too early? Absolutely not. I think there's too late. And I get too many too lates, and then it's my fault that I can't place a kid. But there's never too early.
No, I totally agree. We've had a couple COVID-related questions, and I know that Coach Bruder, you guys just did a whole panel about COVID-related questions. The 2 biggest things are, how are these college, all levels have been affected. Major D1s to the smallest of Division IIIs have been tremendously affected by budget cuts. That can impact scholarships, that can impact funding for different sports programs. There's been tons of Division I schools that have completely cut athletic programs, some multiple. How will it affect prospect players? I think challenging question. It's definitely going, more so than the budget cuts, I believe, is going to be the roster changes and the potential of the seniors choosing to play that additional year. I think that's going to be tremendous. But I also think a lot of colleges are not going to be nationally recruiting this summer, no matter what. It's going to be very regional. So hopefully the budget cuts don't hurt those schools from getting out and watching once we are out of these dead periods and kids can play. Because a lot of teams are playing more regionally, hopefully that doesn't affect many schools' abilities to recruit, because more teams are playing regionally, more coaches are recruiting regionally. So I really think that won't be a major issue, but I do believe it's going to affect long-term scholarship numbers, budget numbers, in the way that they are able to run their program, as far as silly things like meals and apparel and, things like that. So
travel roster, everything. Yeah.
Yes. Travel roster is a great one. Yes.
I do agree with the financial aspect of it. I don't know if it was such a big concern recently as it was when the NCAA initially announced, hey, we're going to grant this 5th year. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, same with me. I had my calendar was filled with like, how does this affect us? Coach, what does that mean for me in my 21s and 20s? I think a lot has shaken out, and you two can disagree if you've heard something different. Each institution, so not division, without getting into details, each institution is going to have to fund Sally and Becky coming back. And if I don't have the funds for that 85% scholarship, I can't keep you. That 2020 already signed an NLI. Where are you going to get the money from? The NCAA does not pay for that, folks. Each institution does. So other than the Power Fives and that type of stuff, that's going to be a budget issue, number one. Number two, in regards to rosters and coaches going more regional? Absolutely. And I don't think that's scared of getting on a plane COVID. I think that's them not playing. That's a budget issue. But if you look at any other rosters other than the Power 5 schools we're talking about, so the other 97% of college rosters, they're regional anyways. Why?
Most of them,
I
I
can't
agree.
see you as often, right? So I think it all kind of circles back to not a whole lot of weird shift there, in my opinion.
I have two really awesome from Ashley and Alexis, really, really good timeline related questions. And then we have, following that, another timeline question that make it a little lengthy, but I want to keep it as simple as possible, Coach Bruder. So this is by giving you a heads up on that. Coach Bruder likes to talk just as much as I do, so we could be here for a long time. But no, so realistically, and I think we should all answer this question and see if we have different answers. What timeline, what year should you start consistently reaching out to colleges via email and trying to connect with them?
8th grade.
Alicia?
I was going to say 8th grade, maybe that summer going into freshman year for sure.
That's exactly what I would say. I think any earlier than that to do it consistently, maybe not be the best place to invest your time. Building your videos, building your social media accounts, building a database is a better focus, I think, prior to that point. But I totally agree. For sure going into your freshman year.
And I think a lot of that too, and again, we're all talking females, your body at that time, you're going through so many changes, and from 6th grade to 8th grade, even 7th grade to 8th grade, 7th grade to freshman, I know my body was changing and I was a different kind of player. That was when I was
a slapper outfielder until she got to college. And she's like 6'7".
Yes.
So if that gives you any gauge on it.
I know.
You're totally
right.
Like,
yeah. I mean, I was tiny. And then I realized, okay, maybe this isn't the position I'm playing. I got to be an athlete,
But I think, agree or disagree though, if you're an athlete, you're an athlete. And there was a kid that Coach Bruder and I recruited who ended up having a career-ending injury. It was really devastating. She was very highly recruited. And from when we started recruiting her in about 7th grade, she was a little bit overweight, short and stocky, but I saw it. Like I knew it was going to come. I knew it was going to be here. And by her freshman year, she had Power 5 offers and was doing the thing. And there's some things that you can still train and can still be there regardless of. Mechanics will never leave you. Doesn't matter how much your body changes. No. Your fitness level will never leave you if you're committed to it. So there's definitely ways but I totally agree with you. So with that same question line, I think we all had the same exact answer with the emails. What age should players start attending college camps and showcases? Such a great question. I think there's 2 reasons to attend college camps. Option 1 is to actually learn, and option 2 is to be recruited. And depending on what type of school you're looking at, depending on what level you think you really can compete at, that will there's a lot of smaller, very instructional college camps that are beautiful for all levels to go to because they actually are committed to teaching in them. And then there's some 500 plus kid, which is, there's some good things there too. But as far as let's answer specifically, camps will answer second. Let's answer specifically to showcases. When do you think, what age group should teams start really attending college showcases?
Do you want my opinion?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think colleges will look at 12U. I think 14U is 100%. You got to be in it. But I do think it's important for that age group of 12U to really get to that point of seeing if that's the path that they want to go to and leaving. And sorry if there's dad coaches on here that, you really got to get to those those programs, the travel ball programs, the Bombers, the Glory, Louisville Slugger, athletics, pastime, those key travel ball teams. I think it's where you need to migrate and move away from those types of teams.
And I think
Yeah,
it
I would
doesn't.
have to agree with that 14. I would have to agree with that 14U timeline. I would also piggyback Alicia and say those 12Us, yeah, they do start to, you have to start migrating in there because a lot of that is going to be, honey, can you do this for the duration? Is this something you want to do? Right. And until you get that taste of competitiveness, this is what it takes at that level, you won't know. And then by 14, it's too late and you've wasted too much time and money, on uncertain things.
Yeah, I think, and as far as camps specifically, I definitely think 7th and 8th grade is still the time to start. And I don't think you have to have a great idea of the schools you want to go to by any stretch, but you can tell a lot from camps. Because even though we may not be able to have very specific conversations with you, you know if you're getting attention. You can watch your kid and you can know how she stacks against the other kids there. And those kids that are getting the attention, are they 4 years older? Is that why they're getting the attention? Are they that much better? Is that why they're getting the attention? So I think camps are an unbelievable way for you to get honest, genuine feedback without asking, and also be able to gauge your athletes against other higher level athletes, recruitable athletes. So I don't think there's ever a wrong time to start going to college camps if you're able to afford it. If you're not, then I think waiting a little bit longer freshman year and starting to funnel your choices to camps that are guaranteed to have multiple coaches in one location, are guaranteed to have X amount of player for coach ratio. It's a really good way to focus. And if that coach sits on a bucket during camps, they sit on a bucket at their practices. So it's also a really good way for you to gauge, is that a coach I would even want to play for, even if she did offer me,
Well, and not only that, but at the camps, if they invite you to a camp or say, hey, please come to my camp, they are going to ask those players who are working the camp about that specific player. We did that all the time because us as coaches, as you all know, you can't watch every single move a player makes, so that's a great way. And to feel, for you as an athlete, you go into that school, you might think that you want to go to Washington. You might think that you want to go to Oklahoma, and you go there and you don't feel, it doesn't mesh with you. So it's not only for them as coaches, but also for you as a player.
We talked specifically in another session, and it might have been a team session that I had, but I respect Oklahoma so much, right? I think Patty Gasso is an unbelievable coach and human being. If you didn't know their program, then you wouldn't know that they are very, very, very religiously founded. And that might be unbelievable for a lot of kids, but it might be not as great of a situation for some other kids. So those are things that you learn as you get closer to those programs, as you attend more camps, as you go to more games. Those are things you start to learn. And you're actually in charge here. We act like the coaches are, but these are your decisions too, no matter what the level is that you're looking at. Okay, Coach Bruder, this is a tough one to answer super generically, but I think really important, you guys. If you're, I can't see everyone, so I don't know if everyone's paying great attention, but this is a really, really important question to hear and to take notes on. So if you are not, let's tune in a little bit right now. Let's talk about the different levels. And with that, let's talk about when those coaches can actually start communicating with athletes. So let's work down the list, Coach Bruder. Let's talk about Division I. Let's talk about how much scholarship money they have, and then funnel into when you can actually hear from them.
Okay. Division I, there's really nothing athletes can't do, and that's kind of a general thing. But don't confuse my timeline as a coach with what you guys can be doing. You can email. You can start, putting that in your profile, getting them information, that type of stuff. They are not allowed to express interest, contact you, make you that offer before September 1st, your junior year. So
or your
be
coaches.
Pardon?
They're not supposed to talk to your coaches either.
Correct. They've kind of narrowed that down again 2 years, right when I was getting out. Those rules happened, which was great. Just because we were starting to chat with kids, sisters, 7th, 8th graders and coaches, and letting them know and kind of putting our name in there. So that was a little bit easier for us. And now they've kind of put the hammer on that, both for the coach and the athlete. So it's making it a little bit tougher to communicate. If they are funded nicely, they have 12 full scholarships, and basically, without diving into some of the boring compliance stuff, you can have 9 scholarships and be a Division I team. You can have 12 scholarships. You have 0. Ivy League has 0, right? They all compete, different reasons, but you can have 12 scholarships and not be full, which means only in-state They're only going to have in-state, tuition available for those kids. So that's kind of the nitty-gritty. You guys don't really need to know about that now, but like Allie said, as you dive into these programs, those are things you need to be aware of.
But a lot of kids think that just because they're Division I means they have the most money, and that's just, frankly, it's not the case. They might still have to fundraise. Okay, they might still not have 12 full scholarships to offer. They might still have a lot of stipulations that you guys have no idea about until you get on campus and you're actually able to ask those questions. So that's awesome. Awesome feedback. Let's go to Division II, scholarship money, and when they can talk to you.
Cool. Division II, coaches can contact you, let you know their interests, same idea, same protocol there, can't do any communication with the coaches, that type of stuff. They can express interest, make you an offer, articulate any conversation back June 15th, sophomore summer. So right after summer,
write these dates down. If you don't know these, write this stuff down. This is like the most important thing you need to know when you are going through the recruiting process, because you're going to get super discouraged, right, Coach Bruder? I'm not hearing from anybody. I'm not getting any offers. They can't even talk to you yet, you guys. So make sure you guys write this down and know this stuff.
Right. And then that's when, again, they can start to communicate and articulate that they're interested in making you offers. If they have money and they're funded, 7.2 scholarships for Division II. That's what they have to work with rosterly. And I should have said rosterly to start out the conversation. You guys have to understand, we don't get 7.2 scholarships annually. We would have 7.2 kids on a roster annually, and they'd all be on full rides, right? What would a 0.2 kid look like? Anyway, so that's what that means there in regards to the numbers. So that's a roster spot. So let's say those 5 seniors, 85% kid here, 25% kid here, I would now have, 2 scholarships left for that senior, for next year to work with. So that's a rosterly number, which gets a little bit more complex.
Right. So basically at any given time, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, however many bodies they have on their team, they can be utilizing 7.2 scholarships. Division I can be utilizing 12 scholarships, no more. So a lot of people think that they have that many yearly, and that would be 60,
That'd be awesome.
70, 80 kids on a roster. That'd be crazy. So awesome. So let's go to Division III.
Division III can start chatting June 15th, sophomore summer as well. That's when coaches can begin calling those athletes. That's a June 15th for them as well. No athletic money in Division III. Again, I coached at a Division III institution for 6 years, and not one of my kids ended up being anywhere close to full. A lot of merit aid, a lot of academic aid, and a lot of financial aid available. They're trying to counterbalance the fact that they know it's usually a private institution, very expensive. Trust me, a lot of monies can be found in Division III if you guys do your due diligence and kind of turn over some rocks. So no athletic aid. June 15th is the first conversation date.
Something to note, you guys, a majority of Division III schools, like Coach Bruder said, is private. And what private means is expensive. What private means is no in-state tuition. So what happens a lot of times is there's these kids that could go to powerhouse Division III schools, the UT Tylers out there who have unbelievable facilities and are competing for national championships every single year, Texas Lutheran, some really unbelievable programs. And they could walk on and fulfill their dream of playing at a Division I school and pay $15,000, or they could go to a Division III school, possibly start and win a national championship for $60,000. So that happens a lot too. So just because you guys aren't getting money, or there's a lot of different ways you can attack your process once you get there. And there's so many different ways to find money, but that's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, I think there's a lot of fallacies with Division III as well. They're not competitive, this and that. I played on a team that took 3rd at nationals. We were allowed to play anybody we wanted to during fall ball. We played, I'm not going to name drop to make them sound bad, some mid-major D1s around the area and a lot of D2s. Coach wanted to challenge us, even if we were going to end up 0-10 that fall, and we ended up beating them on a regular basis. So there's some good ones out there, just like there's some talented D1s and not so talented D1s. We'll leave it at that as well. So I think you have to do your due diligence and kind of what you want and how competitive you want.
Totally. Let's talk a little bit about junior college. We mentioned before, a lot of people don't know that junior colleges are also on a 3-tier scale, Division I, Division II, and Division III, and they compete at those respective levels. And that, since we already talked about the fact that they don't really have timelines, which is completely accurate, they can really do whatever they want as far as scholarship offers and recruiting. They can also have tryouts on campus, which is an unbelievable tool. But something to note about that is Division I has the most, Division II has the second most, and Division III junior colleges have no money. So that's another thing to think about. And the last I'd like to talk about, because I feel like I grew up knowing nothing about NAIAs. Nothing. Like, I didn't even know they existed. So you want to talk a little bit about NAIA colleges, and then we'll move on?
Yeah, so I do think that is kind of a lost one there a lot with JUCO, some misinformation. It's not sanctioned, again, not without getting into detail. It's not sanctioned by the NCAA. So it has a different governing body than Division I, II, and III. It has a governing body that says, these are your rules. These are the timelines. So I think it's not talked about, so it's kind of misunderstood. Yeah. Very long story short, NAIA, I would compare a lot to Division II, maybe somewhere in between D2 and D3 in regards to size of campus, academically, what they offer major-wise, competitiveness, very similar somewhere between D2 and D3. Again, that's going to differ, again, at each institution, how good they are as well. And then they have 10 scholarships to offer. So again, more than even D2, which I think is like, oh, we're playing D2. No, and kids are just on the profile, but no JUCO, no NAI. And then when I get and talking to a kid, just trying to find out, I'm not going to persuade you either way. That doesn't matter. What do you guys know about them? Like, what do you not like? And they're like, we just don't know. So that's not a reason to check no, right? So just, again, kind of educate yourself. And that's what you guys are doing here today. So I compliment you. Just any tidbit, if you can take one thing away from this conversation, then you've wasted a good hour. Let's put it that way. And get off Facebook and get on one of these. No, just kidding. So it's one of those that the NAIA 10 scholarships. The last thing I'm going to say about NAIA, again, different governing body. What you guys need to know, really no big rules in recruiting. They can kind of start talking to kids whenever. We used to joke in D1, they don't have any rules, so they go and try to attack our kids. Smart, if they would. Really no timeline that you guys need to know about when they can't start communicating with you.
Well, and you know, what you just said, saying all of those, there is a place for anyone who really wants to play ball.
100%.
And I've had so many of my athletes that I give lessons to and that I've seen are just like, yeah, I couldn't find a place. I'm like, you know, you just didn't want it. That's plain
Correct.
simple. I mean, everything that you mentioned, Coach Bruder, it's like, there's a spot for any of you girls if you really want to play. There is so many opportunities for you. Mm-hmm. So it's just doing your research and putting in the time, definitely.
No, you're totally right. The whole nobody wanted me type of thing is just so incredibly, that's just not true, frankly. Yeah. And it's okay if you don't really want it, but you need to know that.
And be honest.
Early high school.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
100%. That's completely accurate. This is a question that from Erin that resonates with me so hard. During and after camps, what are questions that coaches find meaningful from campers? And the reason I think that this is such an amazing question is because I cannot, every time you go to especially a Division I camp, right? Let's say there's 100 kids there. How many people do you think stand in line for the coaches after camp's over?
100.
95. Okay. So I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but I was literally I worked my absolute butt off at camps. I was hosed. You guys, it is like a 16-hour day for us, back to back. I mean, it is so hard. Yeah. So being really respectful of that, I think, no, don't be wrong, if that coach has been sitting on a bucket all day, you go right ahead. You go right ahead. But be really cautious of just being aware of the situation that those coaches have been into. However, if you are going to do it, and that's so cool if you are, it's fine. Have something to say. They get up there and they're so awkward, and these kids shake your hand and they say, thank you. What could I work? And it's so uncomfortable, and it's so challenging to have those conversations. And all they really want is a picture to post on their social media. So when you get up there, if you're going to do it, you better have something to talk about. And whether that's like a genuine thank you from like in a normal conversation saying, coach, like I learned so much from X. I loved dealing with X player at this drill. Those things actually mean something. But standing up there and waiting in line when we've already been outside for 12 hours in 100-degree heat, like don't do it. But if you're going to do it, then you better go up with a plan, like I said, and you better have very specific things that you want to either talk about. Do not ask the coach if they are still recruiting X grad year, because it is illegal for coaches to answer that question. So try to be very cautious about the position that you're putting them into. But Coach Bruder, don't you agree that the kids in camps that made a point to float around you, talk to your girls, be present, and interact in a much more natural way than waiting in a line after camp resonated way more than the alternative?
100%. 100%. And I'm not reading the question. I'm hearing it through you, and how you chewed that question out or whatever. But if they are asking questions, there's a Q&A after the session, which I did with my girls, myself, my staff. Let them hear from the students. Let them hear from the coaches. So if that question, Allie, was, and again, you read it, I didn't, what are some good questions to ask in that type of venue and forum? Go for it. No holds bar. I like the what does the average day look like, kind of general, but like let your kids answer. You can get a lot of knowledge from the athlete. Mine was 25 years ago I played. I don't know. Like that has changed. Let the kids answer. So I like a lot of the Q&A after camp, not necessarily the one-on-one. Those kids that floated, those kids that my athletes were talking to, those kids, those are the kids I looked at. And I'll find them. I know what we're trying to do, you know.
And I'm a little bit different. I think it's totally worth it. I mean, a lot of kids, you know, if they traveled far, if they had their money saved, if this was something, you know, this is their moment, right?
Absolutely.
But
yes. Just use your moment.
Yeah, you know, but I would tell them, and I tell this all the time, I know I mentioned it before on team huddles, that every single kid that is there wants to go to that school. Probably say maybe 85%, maybe 90, maybe a little bit higher. Do a fun question. Do something that they'll remember you. Like something quirky, like what's your favorite food? And they're like, that's random, but at least it's not the same question over and over, but also have a seriousness when you're meeting coach, you know, just things like that to make it a little bit different and for you to stand out.
At the end of camps, we would all sit down and there would be, let's say, I don't know, 80, 90 players, all of my team. And I would, right when all the kids sat down at the end of camp, I'd say, okay, we are not leaving here until we get 10 really awesome questions. But if you're not going there prepared and you haven't already done your research and you're not ready to ask an awesome question, then you have wasted your parents' time and money, you guys. So make sure you are doing that work on the front end. So when you get in that position, like Alicia said, you have a question that's going to make you be memorable. It's not just about having an awesome camp. That certainly helps. But yeah, those things like oh, you can push it over the edge. Like if you had an average camp and you are invested in the question asking and you're that kid that's sitting in the front and like really, really taking it in, that speaks like incredible volumes.
Coach Bruder, I actually have a question for you. When you guys had your camp, if you saw girls that were on the same travel ball team in the same groups, wearing the same uniforms, could you spot players out? Or you know, I see that a lot because a lot of girls are a little nervous. What's your advice to those kind of players when you have teammates coming with you and you're wearing the exact uniform? How can you stand out that way?
Great question.
Yeah. And I do like, I get that a lot, actually. Even when we're doing a skills video, I was half scanning through that and somebody asked about a skills video. Well, like, what do you wear? And I'm like, well, wear game attire. Like maybe not your game jersey, but like, don't go out there and pitch in shorts. Like shorts are nothing more than the Olympics, right? Like that's an international thing. Put on some pants, put on some cleats. So I like the team unity. Right.
Put on a belt, Micah.
Put your hair up. So it's one of those, I like the team uni, especially if it's a quality type of team. The kid's proud of the team. Different number. How do you stand out? You know, to me, it's the way you play. And I know with coaching with Allie, they have to pass the eye test. Like I can look at this kid warm ups and be like, I got to see this kid. Now, sometimes that's right and sometimes that's wrong. But how does she stand out? How does she look? You know, she wearing a sweatband around. I mean, just like different stuff. Like the kid looks like a baller. Like to me, that kind of spotted out a little bit too. If you do have a practice jersey with the back with your name on it, that's a time to wear your name and not necessarily the team's as well. You can be a little selfish at camp, honey, you paid for it. So some of those types of things is how I, you know, remember kids. And I remember kids in a bad way with their hair down, with a weird tie-dye shirt that had nothing to do with softball on it, right? Like some of those are just kind of like what I call not professional.
Tie-dye? Look at my mask.
You guys, nothing in the world is worse than wearing another school's shirt to a college's camp. I cannot stress this enough. It happens all the time. And also, don't be above literally sticking some duct tape on the top of your shirt and writing your name on it. Kids do it all the time. Last name really, really helps, especially with coaches, Coach Bruder, who suck at names. Okay, so like there's some ways to go about it, but yeah, if you do have a shirt with your last name on it, even if it doesn't have your team on the front, like I think that's probably the way to go. And if you do come with a group of girls, don't hang with them. Don't group up, don't click, don't stand in the outfield like that. It's a beautiful opportunity to learn and meet new people and grow with other people. So like spread your wings, folks, like get out there. I have a great question. We are rolling through these, you guys. We have literally 35 questions that we're not even going to be able to get to. But this one I think is really good and everyone always asks it. We need to hear it. So Coach Bruder, I know with your NCSA girls, you do classes and you do things like, how to make a skills video and X, Y, and Z. And we always get questions about skills videos. So let's talk a little bit about that and give them, kind of keep it generic regardless of the position. How long is game film better than skills video? And what the most important things that you want to see on there.
Cool. Yeah, great question. And like I said, I scanned through that a little bit ago. Every coach in the country is going to need to see a skills video. And again, I'll try to keep this short because I like just kind of picking them off so people felt like they got their questions answered. But with this COVID, I think it's going to, Holly Bruder's opinion, change the direction of recruiting in general. I think college coaches are saying, maybe I don't have to venture out here. I already got a good start on this. So maybe this will become more of a daily thing rather than just a COVID thing. So I think this video is going to be more and more prominent as we move through. Number one, skills video, I am scanning through it anyway. 3 to 4 minutes is the max that I would say, hey, listen, this is enough. So 3 to 4 minutes is what I would recommend there. Game film, not terrible. There's a lot of what I call uncommon denominators. I don't know the competition you're playing. I can't see the speed of the pitcher. The catcher is set up on the inside. The pitcher is on the outside. So I was like, are you bad as a pitcher or is a catcher bad? Like, did you cross her up? So I can't really see based on the competition how good you are as an athlete. And I've accidentally looked at another kid and was like, man, that kid's pretty good. Turns out it wasn't even you. So be careful of that as well. Those are true stories. So game film is a nice complementary to a skills tape. So a skills tape would be front toss as a BP, right? A pitching bullpen type of workout. Machine, dad, mom, coach, teammate, throwing some balls as a catcher, working on receiving, blocking, that type of stuff. So as far as reps and stuff, that's too lengthy to kind of tell, but let's say front toss hitting, 2 different angles. We said, and this is kind of what I teach. I teach a class on this because when I got to NCSA, I was like, what do you guys have for direction for videos? They said, we don't. I'm like, I'm going to teach one. Give me 10 slides, give me an hour of time, and I'm going to lay it out there. So 2, 1 from the back. I want to see the trajectory of the ball. I want to see the path that ball took, the natural lift you have on your swing. And I want to see 1 from the side, for example. I want to see the mechanical side. I want to see contact point extension, hand path, leg drive. And I get that from the side. So very long story short, 2 angles, 15 balls from the side, 15 from the front for hitting. In each position, Allie's going to be a little bit different. So again, without diving into it, couple different for pitching and shortstop, do some choppers, do that slapper type of ball, right? That we're showcase what you have in your repertoire. So don't showcase, coaches, what you have. Anybody, my 4-year-old can feel the ball right to her, right? We want to see after that pretty play, that pretty play, that mechanics, that pop our feet, that smooth, nice glove work. We want to be challenged. Can the kid come up with a soft backhand and throw on the run? Can she pop her feet and the only place she can make in a 5-6 holes to third? We don't have to be the Sis Bates of the world. Those kids are freaks. But I do want to see how you differentiate yourself from your other athletes. And I'm going to get that in video. Am I going to make you an offer on video? I'm not. I'm going to see you in person, but you have to wet my whistle. You have to entice me to come and see you. And how much did you put in that film to get me to come and see you? If it's just another film of a 23 shortstop, I'm moving on, honey, because there's just too much. There's just too many good ones. So make sure 3 to 4, give us a lot of reps. We can always edit and scan through it. I can't make it up. So your one hit wonder home runs over the wall, that doesn't really do anything for me. Everybody kind of has those. So
Right.
err on the side of too much, and I can always kind of scan through it as I wish anyways.
Totally. It probably takes 4 seconds for a coach to decide if they're going to continue watching the video or not. Literally 2 swings. That is all it takes to make a decision if they're going to keep looking. And I think something that Alicia and I always talk about with the girls that we work with here in Softball Youth is showcase what your thing is. If you run a 3+ to first base, don't base run on your video. You know, like do things that you are good at and you can showcase on those videos. So that's the stuff that needs to be focused on. You don't need to put everything in there if you're not good at everything. And not very many kids are good at everything, right? So just like channel whatever your thing is and get it out there. You do not need to hire a professional. It can be on your phone as long as it's clear and we can see what we need to see. There does not need to be a flaming bulb. Okay, so just, yes. Get out there with your phone on a tee and call it a day. That's great. Okay, so this is a question like 5 different people have asked, which is really interesting. If you go to a small school, does that matter? And I don't know why that's a consistent question, because I think that any coach out there, any person out there, anybody that is in, and it's not a stupid question, I don't mean that. It's just a consistent question that we get, and I'm shocked by it because nobody cares. I don't want to say that. High school ball is not as important as your travel or select ball. I don't know what
But
size.
that's a geographic thing, because I don't know. I mean, in California, West Coast, that is not. It is all about travel ball.
We have coached so many kids. Coach Bruder and I have coached so many kids who, for whatever reason, whether it be because their high school team was not competitive, whether it be because they would have had to pitch in high school because they're the best athlete and that was a safety concern for them. I've coached so many kids who haven't even played high school ball. I'm not encouraging that because reps are reps and that's a good thing. But that's the size school you go to and the size town that you live in are completely irrelevant to the recruiting process unless you are unwilling or unable to get out and get into the teams and the cities that you need to be in to be competitive.
Well, I can speak more transparent now than I could as a coach, you know, kind of watching your P's and Q's. I have really no dog in the fight anymore. I will say in this business, I'm starting to learn more what states, what counties, what geographic locations are playing high school in the fall. So coach, I get asked, hey coach, how does that affect it then? Because now I'm playing, you know, and so each season is going to be a little bit different there too. But I would 100% agree with 99% of college coaches are not going to watch you in the fall either. They're prepping their own team. They're playing their own games. They're doing that in the spring. If that's your season, what are college coaches doing? They're playing. So they can't watch you. And that day off, they are watching you. If they're anybody like me, they're doing field work or putting your, you know, hanging out with your kids. So they're just not seen as much. I graduated with a class of 68 and with a twin ended, you know, in that class has sucked up another number. And we're talking men in there too. So I think if you're good, you'll get some looks. I think you got to put yourself out there and market yourself, both travel or, you know, with a scouting service or not. Either way, that athlete has to do her due diligence and get out there and be seen at that UCLA. Can I be found? Yeah. Make yourself found. Shove her a video and a profile, period.
Yep. So we have probably time for maybe 2 more questions. We might push over a little bit, but we've had so many, we literally have so many good questions. So I'm going to pick one more that I think is really good. And then Alicia, if you want to finish with one that you find that's really good, and then wrap it up. So this one is, I think, an unbelievable question. How can you find out, this is really a parent's question, which I think is, and it's a good one. When you are deciding what camps to go to, whether it be colleges or an outside entity that has colleges there, how can you decide what's a moneymaker or a fundraiser for that school and what's possibly like legitimate? And I want to make sure that you guys know, like, there are a lot of people in the athletic departments who are living on nothing. And sometimes those camps, almost all the time, those camps are fundraisers, whether it be for the volunteer assistant or the graduate assistants on their program. So even if I don't want you to look at that necessarily as a negative, because some of these, a majority, I would say 80% of universities have to fundraise to just be able to operate their budget and just be able to get through their season. But if we're talking about, you know, like moneymaker cattle call 400+ person camp versus somewhere where you can actually be seen, ask those questions. Ask if there is a cap on the amount of athletes that are taken. That's not inappropriate. Ask if there are any other colleges that are going to be there. And I think, Coach Bird, I don't know what you think, but if you can sign up for a camp that has 100 to 200 person cap, and there are 10 to 20 guaranteed coaches there, even if it's the graduate assistant, volunteer assistant, or whatever, even if they guarantee X amount of coaches there, I think those are the ones to really focus on, with the exception of your few schools that you've really funneled. Then you always get to their specific camps.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to actually answer this more as a recruiting coach, kind of taking a little bit of step back, helping my athletes. Because I'm getting this all the time, like what's a moneymaker, what's a grab, just because I'm in the network now, I'm getting flooded with camps and stuff. If you have not emailed that coach specifically, expressing interest, putting your information in there, how did they get your info? On that info, when they replied back, was it generic, or was it, hey, this is a catching camp, or this is a pitching camp, and they spoke specifically about your position? I think on the athlete side, the family side, you guys have to decide, is this college one of my top 10? If it's one of my top 10, then it's worth my time and money. Number 3 or 4, ask some other colleges. Ask if you have a recruiting coach, ask a buddy who coaches, what level am I at? Because I want to go to UCLA's camp. I want to be in front of her, but everybody says I'm a NAIA, JUCO, Division III type of player. Like, don't put yourself and money in a situation where that's kind of a stretch. And I love the stretch, and I love the dream school, Allie, and I think you're right. And mine was to play for the University of Michigan. And when Coach Hutch never called me back, I cried and I moved along. Like, it is what it is. So that was a realistic slap in the face. That's not fun. That's not comfortable. Me sharing with my families, this is where I see you fit. This is one person's opinion. I understand that, but I've also evaled 17 million players. This is what I'm saying. And like Alicia said, when you're looking at another kid, is she at the same level you are? And you said that for camps, right? So I think there's a lot of different gauges of why go to camp. Is it a money grab? If it's a money grab and you're not going to go with it anyways, then throw it in the trash. Put it in the trash box and move along to another camp that you may be excited about.
The bottom line is that I think before you decide, as you get older and you're really starting to try to funnel your camps and use them for recruiting and not learning aspects, you really need to know what level your athlete is to be able to determine what types of camps you should go to. And you need to find a good third party, whether that be somebody like Coach Bruder, who has 20 years of experience and honest feedback, or whether that be your personal hitting coach who played Division II softball and has seen a lot of athletes and knows what different athletes look like. You need to know where your kid's at. And that's the best way to, regardless of where the financial means come from for that school or that program, like, you just need to make sure you're putting yourself in positions where your athlete can be successful and not overreaching or even underreaching. So Alicia, you want to go with the last question? And then if you guys could hang on the line for just a second, I have like 2 announcements when we're done with this final question. And then we'll go from there.
Yes, I was skimming through and I actually got a direct question. They are just really unsure on how to write an email. Like, what's in the subject line? How do I address the coach? What's in the body? And what's a follow-up email? So if you guys have a pen and paper, or don't, go run and get one, because this is going to be key.
And if you guys are in the Softball Youth Elite group that Alicia and I deal with, we sent out a newsletter with literally a layout of a beautifully written intro college letter. So if you guys didn't get that, make sure you get with Alicia. If you're in that elite group, make sure you get with her, because we have that document accessible. But Coach Bruder, why don't you talk a little bit about what to put in an email to college coaches, as maybe focus on the intro letter?
Yeah, and the intro letter is a great start. You can tweak that intro based on, thanks for replying, thanks for viewing my profile, thanks for the camp invite. You can kind of tweak that. And I actually created this based on some of the best ones, and I've kind of taken pieces from all the best kind of simple emails that I've gotten. Okay, so my theory, my likes, all my buddies that I talk to, you guys have to understand that we get over 100 a day, and I'm not kidding you. And those are great, and those are glorious, right? But we get 100. You got to make yourself stick out. You got to get to the meat and potatoes of it, because I got to look for that info and then move along. So mine are kind of short and sweet. So I would start.
Let's be honest. Assistants are getting double that, because the head coaches are forwarding the emails that they received.
Yeah.
So the people that are actually reading the emails are getting times. Yes.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
That's why you're in office 2 and I'm in office 1 with both bay windows. So this is my thought would be somewhere in the subject, if you have video, put video, that is 100% going to get clicked on and viewed. If whether that coach likes you or not, I can't promise you, but I promise you they will view your video. And that's the key, is start differentiating. What's the difference between my 23 short set profile than yours? Video, talent, what you have to offer, everything. So get into the meat and potatoes of video. I don't really even need a name. I don't really care what your name is. Truthfully, I do care how good you are. So I get to a grad year position, you know, any top accolade, state champ, 4.0 GPA and you're a senior, you know, something like that. But don't make me read a book in that subject. So those are kind of my 3 or 4 topics. In the heart of the email, I'm literally talking you guys 6, 7, 8 sentences at max. Number 1, in regards to why that university. Do a little bit of research saying, hey, you know, go Lions. Saw you guys were 40-17 last year. Can't wait to be a Lion, right? Whatever. So get into that. And the rest of it can be generic if you just want to try to keep that the same so we can copy and paste that to every email. Why you? What differentiates you from the others in that class? For me, I'm a coachable, you know, athlete, or I'm a student, you know, of the game. I learn watching others. I learn watching the game on TV. I watch while I'm playing, you know, and I'm a natural leader. I'm a natural leader on the field, off the field. I'm vocal. I lead by example. So those are kind of 3 characteristics that I threw at the coach to be like, that's the kid I'm getting. Awesome. Awesome. So I like that 1 or 2 sentences there. Something in regards to, you know, academics, any one-off. I play another sport. I grew up in a beef farm type of thing. I kind of like that twist. Again, whether coach don't really read that or not, that's fine. Number 3 paragraph would be, here's a link to my video and profile. Here's a link to my schedule. Let's get into, now that you've enticed me, now that I've watched, what more can I see of this kid? Where's this kid going to be at? So don't make me email you for a schedule type of thing. So that would be my kind of 3 different paragraphs, 2, 3 sentences in each paragraph. Short, sweet, put a bow on it, send her out.
Totally. And don't mess up the coach's name, you guys. Don't mess up the coach's name. My last name is Hunkowski. Okay. I know it's hard. I know it's tough. Spell my name right. And make sure you don't screw up the coach. And I get it. I've copy and pasted a lot of emails too, but it's worth spending the time and making sure it's right. Because I promise you, I will never, ever forget that. I promise. Awesome. Okay. So a couple housekeeping things. Number 1, good news and bad news. Good news is that these team huddles have been unbelievable. We have given a tremendous free resource to thousands and thousands of kids and parents. So that's been awesome. Sad news. This is our last weekly one that we will be running. We're going to shift to a probably once a month model. We'll make sure to get that out to you. Hopefully we have some pretty significant names that we've already been working on. We also have our virtual pros that we've been doing with Softball Lifestyle 101. We have Kat Osterman coming up. If you don't know her, get out of the chat right now. Danielle Laurie, NCAA national champion at Washington, Canadian Olympian, some really big time, unbelievable people. So check that out, Virtual Pro. If you're not following Softball Youth on Facebook, make sure you're doing that. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on all these unbelievable free. And it's only $30 a session for Kat, you guys. $30. Okay. So anyway, we're going to give Coach Bruder just 1 minute hang out with me. She did this for free and did this for you guys. So I want to make sure she has a little bit of an opportunity just to talk about what she offers and what you could get if you wanted the opportunity to work with her. I'm also going to put her email address in the chat box. So if you liked her energy and think she knows what the hell she's talking about, shoot her an email and you guys can kind of connect on if you want the opportunity to work with her moving forward.
No, I appreciate the time, both Alicia and Allie too, and with you guys again, and I say this after every camp, if you guys continue to learn, you're doing your job. So I appreciate the attendance and a lot of the questions. I just wanted to spend 1 minute not necessarily even talking about a recruiting service, because I think every service is going to get some highs and lows and some feedback, negative and positive. What I want to talk to you guys about is you guys do your due diligence with your recruiting. If you are not happy with what you're getting, if you need direction and where to start, what you're getting, come find me. You know, go to NCSA in general, go to somebody that you trust. You know, don't leave it up to your travel ball coaches to get your name out there. They have a lot of kids plus their own kid, right? Mom and dad knows a couple people. Well, how many people like do we know, right? So recruiting's about you guys taking onus in your opportunity. And there's some resources out there, hence NCSA, that are going to guide you throughout that path. For me, I speak very honest with my recruits. I give them very, specific critiques, direction of where to go in the recruiting. I can lead that horse to water. I can't make you drink. And if you're not willing to put in some of that effort, I don't know what kind of coach or recruiting service you get. It's just not going to work. So again, I wanted to share my thoughts on do your job. I know that, again, my goal was to play for Hutch. I tell myself she had enough third basemen in the class of 9. So that's why she didn't pick me up. But it's truly one of those. I can honestly put my head down on my pillow and say I did everything I could to get recruited. This is where I landed. If you can say that, then you've done your job. So do your own work with some help along the way, if necessary, a recruiting service, mom, dad, a friend who knows a friend at another college. But it's up to you guys to actively get recruited.
Totally. Awesome advice, you guys. Everyone, please take a second to thank Coach Bruder for being here. Alicia's always amazing and always sets these Zooms up for us. And it's been a really wild ride with these team huddles. And we have had such unbelievable feedback. And we're really grateful for all of you guys for understanding the work that we put into making these happen for you guys. So this will be our last one for a while, but we will definitely be back. And please make sure you check out Virtual Pro. And please follow Softball Youth on Facebook. You'll be able to see Alicia and I's face all the time, whether you like it or not. Okay. Have a good one, guys. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Coach Bruder.
Stay safe.